Hidden away in the depths of valleys belonging to the tallest mountains of the world lie mysterious mountain tribes with the most fascinating stories and culture. Amongst them is a very small ethnic group known as the Wakhi people, a group that has existed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. They reside cut off from the rest of civilization in an area known as the roof of the world. They have their own language, culture, traditions, and way of life. And the Wakhi people were my first ever experience of living with a mountain tribe. In this documentary, I shall be taking you on my once-in-a-lifetime experience of attending a Wakhi wedding. I was honoured to be invited. This 3-day event had me absolutely mesmerised. I'd never heard of the Wakhi people and wasn't aware of their existence, so their traditions and rituals had me captivated, as it was a culture that I had never seen before. But before I talk you through the wedding, let us first start with, who are the Wakhi people? This mountain group live in incredibly remote areas at the borders of Tajikistan, China, Pakistan, and predominantly this narrow strip within Afghanistan, the Wakhi Corridor. Now, this corridor is also referred to as Afghanistan's forgotten corner, because although the country has suffered immensely in the last 2 decades, the Wakhi Corridor remains untouched. This entire area is incredibly mountainous, with the Himalayas nudging into the Karakorams, while the Hindu Kush and Pamirs elbow each other for more room. It is where the world's tallest and greatest mountain ranges come together, giving it the name Bam-e-Dunya, which translates to the roof of the world. It is also known as the Pamir knot, symbolising the different mountain ranges that tie into one another, creating a knot. The Wakhi people, who are literally living on the roof of the world, have been settlers of their lands for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Their origin is unclear, but local tradition says that 4 brothers from Iran settled in the region in the 16th century, which is why the Wakhi people are believed to have prehistoric Persian ancestry. Their total population is also unclear, but it would only be in the hundreds of thousands, which is why they are officially recognized as an ethnic minority. Their language, Wakhi, has never traditionally been written. However, in recent years, activists and researchers working to preserve the language have written it in Arabic, Cyrillic, and Roman letters. What's really cool is that in last year's BBC's 100 Most Inspiring Women Worldwide, one of them is a Wakhi shepherdess. Afroz Numa is one of the last Wakhi shepherdesses. Having learnt the trade from her mother and grandmothers, she is part of a centuries-old tradition that is now dying out in Pakistan's Shimshal Valley. Afroz Numa still fondly remembers being the first woman in the valley to own a pair of shoes. Now, where does my story come in? How on earth did this British countryside girl end up living with a mountain tribe in the outer Himalayas? You see, as I was backpacking through Pakistan, I connected with a lovely Wakhi lady, Abida, in the capital city, Islamabad. Now, I have an entire documentary explaining my journey in Pakistan and why I ended up there, so make sure you give it a watch. Abida very kindly invited me to her Islamabad home, and I was so impressed to find out that she runs a tourism company alongside her father-in-law. Black Glacier Tours is one of the best and most reliable tour operators based in Pakistan, bringing you unique experiences through their fantastic tours. It was Abida who explained to me that Wakhi people in Pakistan live in a region called Hunza Valley. This absolutely beautiful mountain valley is nestled in the Karakoram Mountains and renowned as paradise on earth. The Karakoram Mountains are the second tallest mountains in the world after the Himalayas. They connect to the Himalayas, which is why the Karakorams are also known as the outer Himalayas. Abida ever so kindly invited me to her brother Kareem's wedding in Hunza, so I excitedly packed my backpack, travelled to Hunza, and entered a world that I never knew existed. Now, before I take you any further, make sure that we're connected. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Asra Hussain, and this is my story with the Wakhi people of Hunza Valley. Wakhi culture in Hunza Valley had me absolutely captivated at first sight. She's so cute that I've just got to take a photo of her. Just look at her. I love the way Wakhi people dress, the hats that they wear, the clothes that they wear. Elderly women had the cutest pigtails with a hand-stitched traditional hat, beautifully draped with a scarf over the top. They have the sweetest way of greeting one another by kissing each other's hands. And music, dance and songs are also a huge part of Wakhi culture. Now, the Wakhi people are spread amongst multiple villages in Hunza, and they all operate on a tribal system. Each Wakhi village has multiple tribes. So let's say village 1 has 2 tribes, the second village has 3 tribes, and the third has 4. Each of these tribes are run by a tribal chief, known as a Nambardar. Above these chiefs, each village has only one head, Ala Nambardar, the chief of the chiefs. The tribes of Hunza are predominantly Ismaili Muslims, which is a sector within Islam. So some of their practices are slightly different to the majority of Muslims worldwide. For example, you'll know that the religious temple for Muslims is typically a mosque. However, Ismaili Muslims, instead of a mosque, have a Jamaat Khana, which translates to home of the community. Instead of a priest, Ismaili Muslims have the concept of a religious leader known as a Khalifa. Abida's Hunza home was in the most charming village with a population of just 1,200 people. They predominantly rely on agriculture to get by, looking after crops and herd. Inevitably, facilities are limited, and people live a very simple life that would be extremely difficult for most. It is a completely different world. Life is very different and pretty difficult here in the village if you're not used to it. We don't have running water sometimes. Squatting toilets. Electricity is seriously limited, so cooking, heating the home and heating water has to be done by fire. And after sunset, you spend most of your time in the dark. So my mobile phone is with me all the time. We go into the bathroom in the dark and I use the light on my mobile phone. I'm using my light on my mobile phone to get around the house, to get to walk around this area. As you can see, there's no street lights here or anything like that. Don't even bother asking about Wi-Fi or signal or anything like that. I mean, right now, when you're focusing on electricity and water, Wi-Fi is not a priority at all. So that just, yeah, don't even bother asking about that. I am walking home now, the place where I'm staying. As you can see, there is no light, so I always use my phone light. I still can't get over how far they have to trek. We literally trekked up a mountain to milk the cow and then trekked back down, and they do this twice a day, every day. Why do they need the milk, may you ask? For tea. Life here without chai is unbearable. They need to drink their chai 2-3 times a day. I was joking to them earlier saying, listen, just give up drinking tea. If you give up drinking tea, you won't need a cow, you won't need to trek, life will be easier. One thing about living up in the mountains is the night sky. Whenever I walk, I stop along the way and I turn my light off and I stare up at the sky. I wish you could see it. It's like a sheet, a literal sheet of stars. It's unbelievable. Now, I am not an experienced traveller at all. This was the first time in my life that I had travelled so far from home, alone. So this mountain village life was incredibly different for me, and I did massively struggle at first. However, people were so kind, hospitable, and took me in as their own. So I ended up getting stuck in with their day-to-day life and really enjoyed it. Now, I know you're wondering, how on earth did I communicate with this tribe when I'm not Wakhi myself and I don't speak a word of Wakhi? Now, the lack of facilities hasn't stopped the people of Hunza from getting ahead. In fact, they're soaring ahead. I mean, check out the village school. I am here at the school that's been built at the top of the hill. What a place to build a school. Have you guys seen anything like this? Because I haven't. I have never seen a location like this for a school. Imagine being a child and coming here, this is your school, right? What a view. I mean, you're here on the seesaw
and you're going up and down with the view. You're there on the swing, okay, and you're swinging about with this view. And this is just your everyday life. This is your norm, this is your life. Now the literacy rate here in Hunza is very, very, very high. Pretty much everybody is educated, especially the young generation. I have not yet come across a young person that's not going to school here in Hunza.
With a 97% literacy rate in Hunza, the youngsters would really enjoy speaking with me in English. And before flying out to Pakistan, I had spent 2 years with a teacher studying the country's national language, Urdu.
So because the literacy rate is so high and everybody is educated here, they all speak Urdu very, very well. I have even come across children as young as 5, 7, 8 years old that speak Urdu fluently, and bear in mind it's not their mother tongue, it's not their language. It's only the very elderly that I've come across that don't speak Urdu, because a lot of them, they've never been to school a day in their life, they're not educated at all. So what usually happens is when I come across an elderly person that doesn't speak Urdu, I need a translator, and that translator is usually their grandchild. So there'll be a 10-year-old or a 15-year-old sitting there who will speak in Wakhi to their grandparent, and then they translate into Urdu for me, and it's just such a fun experience. Because of the combination of the high literacy rate, education and culture, the people here of Hunza, they are very, very different in comparison to the rest of Pakistan. They're very, very open-minded, very forward, very modern, fun, carefree, loving people. I'm not saying the rest of Pakistan aren't, I'm just saying that the open-mindedness and the way of thinking and way of living is very different here in comparison to the rest of the country.
Now that you're up to date with who the Wakhi people are, let's begin with the beautiful 3-day wedding that I was invited to, of Kaleem and Nahida.
आज शादी का पहला दिन है, ठीक है? ये पहले दिन का नाम क्या है? Betrosid.
Day 1 is known as the Betrosid, which translates to the cutting of the bet. Now, a bet is a traditional Wakhi garment worn by the groom, which in the olden days would take 5 days to sew together. Hence, Wakhi weddings used to be 5 days long. Today, weddings are 3 days because most grooms purchase their clothing or wear other garments. The Betrosid starts with a prayer read by their religious leader, a Khalifa. The prayers are read in Farsi, the Persian language of Iran.
فرزند آدم را نصیب گردان و حقی پنجتن پاک محمد است و علی فاطمه حسن و حسین و آله طیبین طاهرین آمین یا رب العالمین.
What followed the prayers was incredibly fascinating. The groom's eldest sister-in-law cut a white cloth, which in the olden days would have been the material for the bet. And this cutting symbolizes that the wedding ceremonies have officially begun. Now this moment is celebrated by performing putuk, a tradition performed on joyous occasions. An elder of the family will throw flour at the pillars in the home. This is to thank the angels and to bring more blessings into the family.
It's like welcome karte.
They use flour because it's an ingredient that feeds families, bringing health and prosperity. Then the food came out. We started with Rukun Tubak, a traditional Wakhi dish eaten on special occasions. Rukun translates to white and Tubak translates to plate. The dish consists of a bowl of fresh milk with a drizzle of apricot kernel oil. What you see being added into the milk is shredded bread. This bread is known as chapati. The dough is rolled out into a thin circular piece and cooked on a fire. This chapati is then shredded into small pieces and mixed with apricot kernel oil and ghee. That then makes it into this sticky, floury kind of mixture. The dish is then served with sweets and apricot kernels. Now, apricot kernels are an essential part of Wakhi culture as well as Hunza culture overall. What are apricot kernels? They are not the seed within the fruit. They are in fact the seed within the seed. You'll find apricot trees all over Hunza, and this fruit is used massively throughout the region for good health. Not only are the apricots dried and eaten throughout the year, but the kernels are eaten as snacks and served with dishes. Food is also predominantly cooked in apricot kernel oil. Then it was time for the second traditional Wakhi dish.
इसको मोलिदा बोलते हैं।
Molida.
ये असली घी है।
Asli ghee अंदर?
ओरिजिनल है ये बहुत महंगा डिश है।
Molida is made from boiling lassi. Lassi is a drink made from blending milk and water. Shredded chapati is then added into the boiled lassi. Once cooked, it is drizzled with apricot kernel oil and served with ghee.
मुझे ये अभी थोड़ा ऐसे लेके मुझे इसमें डुबाना है क्या करना है?
आप डुबा दो, तीन खाओ, ज़्यादा खाओ, जितना मर्जी।
मैं अभी थोड़ा चखती हूँ।
Now, ghee is clarified butter. Another essential part of Wakhi culture is it's used a lot in their traditional dishes. They bury it underground to keep it cool. And not only does this method preserve it, but keeping ghee buried for long periods of time also alters the flavour to a slightly more tangy taste. The ghee that you see here was buried in 2004 by Kareem's mother and dug out in 2021 for his wedding. Now that's what you call saving something for a special occasion. Obviously, there's no wedding without singing and dancing. So that's exactly how we ended the day. And I have got to give it to the Wakhi kids. The elders were so consumed by the wedding and incredibly busy, but these little guys really looked after me and kept me company throughout. The night ended with a final dance by our fabulous groom Kaleem, and the next morning, ladies from around the village came together to prepare more chapatis. Now, you've already seen that this bread is used a lot in Wakhi dishes, so this tradition is incredibly important in Wakhi weddings.
It is day 2 of the traditions for Kareem's wedding. Tomorrow is the final day of the wedding. The last 2 days there has just been no sleep. You saw how everyone gets up and dances and sings in the evening. That's basically what happens every single night here. So we are all running on very, very little sleep. Today has just been absolutely manic because of the amount of things that needed to be done, the cleaning, the arranging, sorting out for tomorrow. I did miss all of it, I won't lie. I woke up today and I went to a lady's house, a friend that I've made here who's part of the family. I went to her house to have a shower. Well, it wasn't a shower. I was bathing with a bucket and jug. I have never bathed so carefully in my life because today water stopped. Water just stopped coming, so we had to treasure and look after this water as though you're looking after jewellery. So as I was pouring jugs of water over my head to wash my hair and wash my body, I was pouring ever so carefully, just trying to use every single drop and not waste a single drop of water. I was just trying to find out what's going on, and I just found out that some people from the groom's side of the family have gone to take the clothes elsewhere, the groom's clothes elsewhere to iron because we don't have electricity here. So these are the kind of things that we have to go through when we are living in a village. Hi! So today they have butchered a cow, as you can see its head right there, okay? And here's all the meat, and what the lads are doing right now is they're cooking it. This preparation is for the big day tomorrow. They'll be serving another traditional Wakhi dish which takes a long time to cook. So the men will spend today preparing the dish and boiling the meat ready for day 3. Then it was time for the second ceremony, Shupur Zuvan, the dressing of the bride or groom. It starts yet again with a prayer in Farsi, read by their religious leader, the Khalifa. He then begins to dress Kareem, and luckily, Kareem's clothes were ironed and crease-free, because if you recall, our electricity had stopped. So Kareem's friends had rushed to a hotel in a nearby village to get them ironed. The groom's Shupur Zuvan isn't actually done on the second day, but on the final day. So what would normally happen is that in the morning of day 3, the Khalifa would dress the groom and he would leave to collect his bride to be wedded. However, Kareem's bride lived quite far away and they were scheduled to leave very early the next morning. So it made sense to do Kareem's Shupur Zuvan on day 2 instead. Now, Kaleem didn't opt for the traditional Wakhi bet, but a beautiful garment that's quite popular throughout Pakistan. Once Kaleem was dressed and looking fabulous, the Khalifa then proceeded to put apricot kernels and sweets on his head, which Kaleem drops to the ground by tilting his head each time. This ritual is to bring prosperity to Kaleem's marriage and new life ahead. The Khalifa does the same with flour, putting it on Kaleem's shoulders and head, and the same flour is then used to perform putuk, which you also saw yesterday on day 1.
The sweets that Wakhi people use for their rituals is more of a modern twist, but apricot kernels and flour have been used for the longest of time for all traditions, as they're both very dear to the region and bring families health and prosperity. Wakhi weddings also have the concept of groomsmen known as an ushum. They are two of the groom's closest friends, and in the Sherbaz they are dressed with a traditional hat and garland. The ushum are to take care of the bride and groom during the wedding, and also responsible for dealing with any issues between the husband and wife in future. Then large plates of rukun tabak were dished out, a traditional Wakhi cuisine which you also saw yesterday. Now that the groom is dressed and the Sherbaz ceremony is complete, once Kaleem leaves his home, it is considered bad luck for him to re-enter without his bride. So the next time you see Kaleem back in this room, it will be with his bride, Nahida.
कल के लिए तैयार है? View of what's happening outside. So the kids, they're taking me to the roof. आप मुझे कहाँ लेकर जा रहे हो?
हम आपको छत पे ले जा रहे हैं।
ठीक है, चले।
वहाँ से भी
And look at these views. Imagine these views just outside your home, and the wedding is in your back garden. There's the band. With me. And look, there's people all gathered by the wall as well.
The first one and the second one is my grandpa.
The first and the second are both your grandparents?
Yes.
Wow! Your grandparents are very cool dancers.
Thank you.
I found these hand movements by the women to be ever so fascinating. They do this gesture in front of loved ones to show love, respect, and bestow blessings. You may recognize this fabulous dancer in front, as I showed him in the beginning. He is none other than Abida's father-in-law, with whom she runs her tourism company. Now imagine having this cool guy as your tour guide. There'd never be a boring day. Then it was time for the groom and his groomsmen, the ushums, to get up and show off their moves. The groom's dance is the last dance, signifying that the celebration is coming to an end. But not until Kaleem has taken every last penny of his friends and family. Now we know that Kaleem's Sherbaz was done a day early. However, the bride's Sherbaz, where she is dressed, is always done on day 2. Now I don't have footage of Kaleem's bride Nahida's Sherbaz, but I've very kindly been given footage for other brides. So let me talk you through. It's very similar to the groom's Sherbaz, starting with a prayer in Farsi read by the Khalifa. She dresses in white and gathers with her family. Part of her dressing is this beautiful traditional Wakhi hat known as a skeed. The dangly parts on the skeed is silsila, a head garment worn only by brides. She's adorned with jewellery, a garland, and the white veil of her outfit is draped over her head. You'll now see the same ritual that was performed on Kareem. Apricot kernels are put on her head, which the bride drops to the ground by tilting her head once forward, then right and left. Followed by sweets for a modern twist. And lastly, flour on the head and shoulder. The guests are all fed traditional Wakhi food, and then it's time for the bride to say goodbye as it's the last day in her own home. And tomorrow she shall be wedded and moving to her in-laws. As she hugs and kisses her loved ones goodbye, a song written by the famous Wakhi poet Nazir Ahmed Bulbul is played in the background. The name of the song is Bidgans and sang by Irfan Ali Bahadur. I highly recommend you to check it out on YouTube. It has the English translation and you'll certainly be moved by the lyrics. It is an incredibly emotional and heartfelt song dedicated to brides, where the lyrics speak of the mother and father's hearts crying that their daughter is leaving, but still wishing her the best for her new journey ahead and asking her to leave her memories behind. Moving back to Kareem's home, after all of that dancing, we had a delicious dinner of meat and rice with all of us eating out of big plates together, followed by more dancing. And then it was finally time for bed. Everyone sleeping together in one room was a new experience for me. It's popular within Wakhi culture and Hunza culture overall. Blankets are laid out on the ground for the families to sleep together and then put away in the morning to transform the room into a living, sitting area, which is where all of the wedding ceremonies take place. 7 a.m. on day 3, Kareem and some of his family members left to travel to the bride's village to be wedded. Now, I didn't go with them as I was massively sleep deprived and went back to bed, but I could show you footage from a different wedding. The bride traditionally dresses in red for the day of her wedding, wearing the silsila head garment she was adorned with during her shubrazavin the day before. Once the groom arrives, everyone heads over to the Jamaat Khana, the religious building for Ismaili Muslims. Now, the wedding ceremony is Islamic, known as the nikah. Filming inside the Jamaat Khana is not allowed. However, once the ceremony is complete, the bride and groom leave the Jamaat Khana officially as husband and wife.
Hi everybody.
Hi, अच्छा हम अभी कहाँ जा रहे?
हम अभी शवर करने जा रहे हैं।
अच्छा, और वहाँ क्यों जा रहे?
दुल्हन और दुल्हन।
अच्छा, और दूल्हा और दुल्हन कहाँ से आ रहे? परसों। अच्छा, तो अभी सारा गांव इकट्ठा हुआ है, ठीक है? हम सब साथ में, पूरा गांव सब साथ में वहाँ खड़े होने वाले और दूल्हा और दुल्हन का इंतजार करेंगे, है ना? ठीक है, बड़ा मजा आएगा।
चलो।
हाय, हाई फाइव। Yeah. So basically what is happening, the entire village is getting together to welcome the bride and groom. Oh, I think they're here. Whose van is this? Oh my God, look at how many cars are coming behind us. This is insane. I didn't realise it was so many. Alright, let's catch up with them. Look, there's people on the roof.
The tractor entrance was a surprise for everyone, and the bride had arrived with a lot of her family. After numerous photos with the tractor, it was nightfall by the time we welcomed the bride Nahida and her family into Kareem's home. Everyone sat down to be fed, and then we ran out of electricity.
क्या कह रही हैं आप? आपको मेरा कैमरा चाहिए? अच्छा ठीक है, मैं आपको सिखाती हूँ। अच्छा, ये आप दोनों हाथों से पकड़े, ठीक है? गिराना नहीं, अभी आहिस्ता आहिस्ता नीचे आइए, सीढ़ियों से नीचे आइए। Good girl। ऐसे ऊपर पकड़े आप, शाबाश। अभी हम सबको दिखाने वाले कि यहाँ पे कितने लोग आए हुए हैं ना।
48.
48। आपको कैसे पता 48 लोग आए हुए?
यहाँ लिखा हुआ है।
नहीं, इसका ये नहीं मतलब कि 48 लोग आए हुए। यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है? अभी खाने का वेट कर रहे हैं, भूख लगी है।
You know, cutting the meats.
Oh, look at this. सुनिए अंकल, मैं तस्वीर खींच सकती हूँ ना? ठीक है, आपको कोई मसला नहीं है? ठीक है, मैं खूब खींचूंगी।
Now, this is the traditional wedding sherbet that the men spent all day yesterday cooking. Tui but. Tui meaning wedding and but translating to sherbet. It consists of water and flour that is boiled together and cooked over a wood fire for the entire day. It takes a long time to cook, which is why it was done the day before the wedding. The key ingredient you should know by now for Wakhi people is none other than ghee. The more ghee you add, the more flavourful the dish. This sherbet requires constant stirring and attention throughout the day, which is why it's usually done by the men, and a group of men as it requires team effort. The dish is then served with bread and meat that you saw boiling away yesterday. Tui but is a festive dish made traditionally at weddings to celebrate the joyous occasion. And that brings me to the end of Kaleem and Nahida's beautiful 3-day wedding. I had never seen anything like it, and it was an experience of a lifetime. Kaleem and Nahida, I wish you both a lifetime of health, wealth, love and happiness, and pray that you have a long and beautiful marriage. Thank you for having me and for allowing me to be a small part of your happiness.
I'm saying goodbye to everyone here in Gulkin. We've got Abida over here and Auntie, and it's so sweet. I'm being given a leaving present right now.
ये हमारा कल्चर है ना, ये
जी।
हमारा ट्रेडिशनल कैप है। इसको हम बहुत ही स्पेशल जब गेस्ट आते हैं उनको पहनाते हैं।
अच्छा।
तो अभी आप जब आई थी तो हम बहुत ज़्यादा बिजी थे, हम आपको नहीं पहना सके। तो अभी आप जा रही है तो अम्मी और फूफो ने कहा कि उनको पहनाना है। तो ये एज अ गिफ्ट आपको देना। माशाल्लाह,
मैं भी वाकई लग रही हूँ। पता है, मैं जब
आप बहुत अच्छी लग रही है।
मैं जब से हंजा आई हूँ, मुझे इस टोपी और जो सिलसिला है ना, इन दोनों का बहुत शौक है। लेकिन पता है, ये दुकान से लेने से बेहतर है क्योंकि आंटी ने ये खुद बनाया है ना, हाथ से बनाया है।
I was so touched by this kind gesture and still cherish this hat today. The Wakhi people were the first tribe to take me in, and my journey with tribes in the mountains and at sea started from them. I learnt so much about their culture, way of life, and made memories that I'll hold dear forever.
And now check out my ride. मैं इनके साथ जा रही हूँ। अच्छा, मुझे अभी कहाँ बैठना है? ठीक है, अभी शम्स जी मुझे कहाँ लेकर जा रहे हैं? गुलमित लेकर जा रहे हैं अपने ट्रैक्टर में। मैं ट्रैक्टर में बैठी हूँ।
From the bottom of my heart, I'd like to thank the people of Gulkin village in Hunza Valley for their kindness and hospitality. And a very special thank you to the Wakhi kids of Gulkin village for looking after me and keeping me company. This incredible experience just wouldn't have been the same without you.
Look, there's my friends! Yay! मैं बोरित झील जा रही हूँ और मैं हुसैनी पुल जाने वाली हूँ। जी? आप स्कूल गई थी, आप कितनी प्यारी लग रही हो। हाई फाइव। brings me to the end of my chapter in Gulgin village. I'm not sure where I'm heading to next, but I'll take you all along my journey with me.
And make sure to check out my dear Wakhi sister Abida's tourism company, because of whom I had the privilege of such a rare experience of a lifetime.